Hi guys, this is Angie with Knot by Knot, and I wanted to make a tutorial, a very easy to follow tutorial that demonstrates how to read my patterns, as well as tips and tricks for the best burn method result. So on the screen you will see an example of what my graph patterns look like, and you will see that they're numbered, both columns and rows. The first row is your chain row. So for this particular pattern, you would chain 13 and you would have 17 rows. So you've got 13 columns and 17 rows on this pattern. You can also see that the numbers on this pattern, 1 is going from left to right, and 2 is going from right to left, and so on. So in this pattern, you would follow this exactly the way that you're knitting back and forth. What you see on this screen now is an example of what my color blocks look like. So this matches up with the graph pattern. So you can see on row 1, the arrow is going left to right, just like on the graph, and it's a 13 in the box. So in this case, you would use green and you would chain 13 for row 1, going left to right. Now on the color block pattern, you will read this pattern like you read a book. Every line you will read from left to right. Even when you're stitching right to left, your pattern is always going to be read from left to right, just like a book. So each time you start a new row, you will start with the first color block and go from there. Now, I wanted to show you when I am knitting my blankets, I like to have both my graph pattern and my color blocks up. I put mine on a split screen on my laptop so I can follow the color blocks. I can chain 13 and I can do my second row and my third row, but then I've also got my graph pattern to compare as I'm going along so I can visualize the picture being built basically. And this way, if you do find that you've gotten off somewhere, you'll catch it quicker if you are following both patterns than if you were just relying on the color blocks. Now, another option is just to use the graph by itself. Some people prefer to do that and then just count the squares, and that's perfectly fine too. I think everyone finds their own comfort level, but I did want to share with you how I do it, and that's putting it on a split screen. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started making the pattern. With any graph pattern, you are going to want to have, of course, your yarn. You're going to want to have a good sharp pair of scissors, as well as a lighter, and also some butane fuel to refill your lighter. And you can see here I have my laptop with my pattern, my color blocks on one side and my graph pattern on the other, ready to go. And we see here that for row 1, we are going to chain 13, going from left to right. That was Hans, my Bernese mountain dog, in the background saying hi to y'all. Okay, so we're going to make our slip knot. We are going to make the first, I like to make the first loop in my chain just about 2 finger widths, even though you make your chain typically a bit bigger than that. I like the ends to be a little bit tighter so I don't have a big loop there. So what I do is I do 2 finger widths for that very first slip knot, and then I do 3 finger widths for the rest of my chain. And here we are again chaining 13. 12, and 13. So there we have row number 1, chain 13. And here we see on row number 2, we again have 13, which matches up with our graph pattern of 13 green going from right to left. Now we are going to begin row number 2. And I'm just going to turn the chain, and we're going to pull up loops in the tops of each of these chains. That last chain will be our first loop. So we're just going to pull up. There's a couple of different ways to do the bottom of your blanket. I'm just going to keep this pattern simple, and we're just going to pull up our 13 chains. We're going to keep them each about 2 finger widths again, and pull up our 13 chains loops, just in the top of our first row of chains. Now, of course, we do always want to count and ensure that we do have the correct number of loops before we continue on. And now it is time for row 3. On the color blocks for row 3, you'll see the arrow pointing at the first box in row 3. And now you see on the graph rows 1 through 3, and it looks like we have a color change which corresponds with our color blocks. Now, as we start the next row, we are going to skip this first stitch, but we're going to count it as number 1 in that row. So we saw that we needed 6 stitches, so that was number 1, 2, this is 3. Again, the first one was 1, but we didn't stitch it. We do count it though. 4, 5, and 6. Again, we needed 6 green, and we count that first one as a stitch. Now it's time for a color change. Take your scissors and snip as close to the blanket as you can, and then pull that out just a little bit so you can get to the end. Grab your other color, put your 2 ends together, get rid of all the fuzzies. You want to find the core down inside there that holds all the yarn together, and that's what you're trying to light, is just that little bitty center core piece. You get that lit and just rub those 2 pieces together. It doesn't take a lot of fire, and you don't want to burn a lot of the yarn. That's how you're going to keep your burn spots a little less noticeable. Always test your joint, make sure it's going to hold, and then you want to just kind of tuck it right down in that space between the loops to kind of keep it padded in there and keep it in place. Okay, so there's our 1 red that we needed. Again, we're going to cut very close to the blanket. Pull that stitch out just a little bit, get rid of our fuzzies, find our core, and just aim our flame just to the very edge of that. Doesn't take much flame. And then just hold and let them melt together as you rub that little spot with your finger and get it as small as possible. Always test it. Make sure it's going to hold. Tuck your joint, take your hard spot right into that joint, and continue on with our final 6 stitches or 6 loops. That's the last loop of row 3. We stitch that. That's our 6th loop. And now it's time for row 4. And remember, when we are reading our color blocks, we are always going to read them like a book from left to right. So you'll see row number 4 here, the red arrow is pointing to the first box of that row. which is 5 green. Here is the corresponding graph. You can see row number 4. We start with 5 green, 5 boxes, going right to left. As before, we will skip the first loop. We will count it, and we will start with the second. We'll pull up the second loop, third loop, fourth, and fifth. And not 6, just 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will again cut. It is time for a color change. According to the pattern, we have 3 red. We will get rid of our fuzzies. Have a little extra bowl, you end up with a lot of fuzzies. Get your little core pieces on fire, hold them together, let them melt together, roll it with your finger to keep the hard spot as small as possible, tuck it into the seam, and pull up 3 red. We will finish with 5 green. Here's the arrow reminding you this is the first block of this row. Which does correspond with our graph. Okay, we will skip the first loop, but count it as 1. This is 2, 3, and 4. And our pattern calls for a color change. And now we have 5 red. Another color change. Now once you tuck that joint down in there, sometimes you'll see it kind of peeking through to this other side. You can just take your other loop and just kind of pull it back to where it goes, right down in there, tuck it down in that seam. And finishing out row 5. Okay, remember we start here. Even though we're knitting from right to left, we are going to read the pattern left to right. And here we are on the graph pattern at row number 6. Skip the first loop, pull up the second and the third, and the fourth. double checking that I still have 13 stitches. I never want that to increase or decrease throughout the pattern. Okay, we're beginning row 7 now. We will skip the first stitch. Count it as number 1. This is number 2 and number 3. And then we have a color change, and we will stitch 7. Change color again and in with 3 green. I wanted to show you here, it really does not take much flame. Get the very centers hot and they will melt together. The smaller you can make that burn area, the smaller your hard spot is going to be. We're now beginning row 8. We skip the first stitch, stitch the next one, and the next one, and then we have a color change.
Hey, you're good. Dark.
And again, one of my dogs saying hello to y'all. Okay, the other thing I want to demonstrate here is you can burn it together, and if you don't hold it long enough, it really doesn't melt together. So that's why you hold it on there and kind of roll it between your fingers. If it does come apart, which it does sometimes when you test it, then you just simply cut those hard areas that you that were there before and just redo it. Give it a good roll and a good test. Tuck it in the seam and move on. Once more, as a reminder, always read your color blocks from left to right, not right to left. The next 5 rows are the same, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch through those, and I will catch back up with you on row 14. Okay, now we're ready for rows 14 and 15. The arrows represent where we are starting to read the pattern on each of those rows. And this is the graph. Hopefully if you're following along, this is what your little pattern looks like now too. So to start row 14, again, we skip the first and we do the second and third. And I know if you have been following along and doing this with me that you're very familiar now with the burn method now that you've done it a few times. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will get with it. If you ever get one that you just don't like the way that knot feels, it's okay to just cut it off of there and start again. And just each little spot, get it just the way you want it. We're just going to go ahead and move on with the next row. A couple more rows and we'll be to the end of it, and I want to demonstrate how to go ahead and finish the top of your blanket off. And it was either Hans or Harper saying hi to y'all again. They're very friendly. Reality is that they probably saw a leaf fall from a tree or a bird fly by or something very, very scary and dangerous that they had to warn me about. Okay, and now here we are to the final 2 rows, row 16 and 17, which are just all green. And if you're following along, hopefully your blanket is looking very similar to this pattern. So we just do these last 2 rows. We pull up these loops just a little bit bigger than what we've been doing throughout the blanket. And this next row I'm going to show you or explain to you how to finish off the blanket. There are multiple ways, just like starting your blanket in your second row, but this one is fairly simple and it leaves a nice edge. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to take that first loop, pull it up like you're going to start the next row, but then you're just going to take that loop and slip it through the loop behind it. Okay, again, so you're going to pull up, slip it through that loop directly behind it, and you should have no more loops left as we go. We're finishing off each of these loops. You're just slipping one in the other, and you can see I'm kind of getting that a little too tight there. I want to make these loops a little bit bigger so that it's not tugging on the sides. So you just want to get a good size going there, and I love the finish edge that this gives. We didn't start with a braided edge, so on this particular blanket it's not going to look the same on the top and the bottom. But I did want to show you some different ways of being able to start and finish your blanket. And so you get down to your final loop and slip it through the one behind it, and then just take your tail and slip it through that final loop, pull it tight into a knot, and there you've got your nice braided top edge of your little heart. You can see here the bottom edge is just a little bit different than the top, but those are just 2 different ways of different looks. It just depends on what your preference is. And then on all your blankets, you just cut your tail and just weave your end down in here, and then we're just gonna burn it in place so that we don't get any frayed edges, and that keeps that tail in place. I truly want to thank everyone for following along with me today, and I hope that this answers a lot of your questions and just gets you a little more comfortable with being able to do graph blankets. There's so many possibilities when you get comfortable and are able to just kind of branch out and get into some of these graphs. They're so much fun and so beautiful. If there's ever anything that I can do to help your journey along the way, please do not hesitate to reach out. I would be happy to help. Happy knotting, everyone.